Now we'll be discussing about method overriding. So already we have discussed about overriding there. In a very simple step, imagine you're having two classes. A parent class, we call that as a superclass, as well as a child class, which we call it as subclass. Imagine in the parent class we are having a method. Let us hope we're having a method. Let us name it as some sample. A method. We are having a method which is having some empty body or empty implementation. Let us consider now that this parent class has been inherited by the child class. Now, if this child class holds the same method that is available in the parent class, if it holds the same method that is available in the parent class, then it is said thus this method available in the child class overrides your parent class. That process takes place only when the child class method is having same name. Same name and same type signature. We can refer you. Now in the parent class, I'm having a method called as sam. Here I'm having a method called as sample. Now in this process, overriding will not take place since method names are different. If suppose if child is having a method name similar to a parent, now in this process, overriding takes place as the method sam is having same name and same type signature. Remember, overriding takes place only when the child method holds same name and same type signature. Remember these two. It should contain same name and same type signature. I hope you understood what do you mean by type signature. Type signature represents its return type as well as parameter list. Okay, everything should be similar. If it is similar, then that method is said to be overridden. Overridden in sense, whenever among the subclass, when you're trying to access a method called as sam, it always refers to the method which is defined in the subclass but not which is defined from the parent. Since this subclass method hides your parent class method which is having same name and type signature. Okay, we'll refer a small program. After overriding, I'll explain you about overloading again. The same program, a small bit of modification. So I'm having a class called as I. We are having which is having two instance variables called as I and j. As well, I will define a constructor. Since frequently we'll be using constructors, we'll have a constructor which is used to set the values of I and j. Instance variables I and j. Okay, so I hope you the working of this piece of code, right? This constructor is used to initialize the values of I and j. We'll have a method called as display. The working of this method display would be displaying values of those instance variables. I'll use a short method system.out.println. But make sure when you're writing it, you're supposed to take it as system.out.println. Here I'll display value of x and y. Sorry, I'll display value of I and j. Here, using this statement, I'm displaying values of I and j. Now, this is the working of your class A. Now we'll have one more class called as class B, where this class extends class E. Now class B acts as your subclass of parent class E. Here I'll take one more variable called as K, as well as you're supposed to know. Let us hope that class B should contain three variables, a variable called as I, J, and K. Since already I and J is available in class A, we are inheriting into class B. So now class B holds three variables. Variable I and J, which belongs to your superclass A, and a variable called as K, which is defined in subclass B. As well, we'll define its constructor. Now in this constructor, we need to have three parameters. Since class B holds three variables. Okay, now the way of doing it is I can take it as I equals to X, again J equals to Y, again K equals to Z. Now in these three statements we are trying to insert a value of I, J and K through these parameters X, Y, Z. This is one way of writing the code, or since already we have discussed about super, instead of these two lines you can refer here I equals to X, J equals to Y is already repeated in is already defined in constructor A. So since the constructor A is defined, I can use this code. Use this code instance, I can just call super constructor. Among super constructor, I need to set value of I as X, value of J as Y. So I'll pass these two parameters X and Y. It can be done using super, or you can rewrite the code again. The preferable one is using super. Since inheritance is used to reduce the code usage, so make sure practice use of super. After already we are having a method called as display. In that I'm trying to display value of I and J. Now here again I'll define a method called as display. In the method display I'll display value of K. Okay, I'm displaying value of K here. Okay, now you can refer you. Once we'll come back to the previous diagram here. What did we say about overriding? We said that if a subclass method holds the same name and same type signature as the method available in the parent class, then that method overrides or hides your parent class. That process we call it as method overriding. The same thing which is happening in this piece of code. You can refer here. Now class A is having a method called as a display, which does not return any value and which does not hold any parameters. Once since class A is inherited into class B, even class B holds a method called a display with no return value, with no parameters. It is said that the method display available in class A is similar to the method display available in class B, which is having same name and same type signature. In this process, the method available in class A will be hidden. I mean, the superclass method will be hidden by your subclass. Whenever you're trying to access method display through class B, it always refers to the display which is available in class B, but not from class E, not which is defined in class E. We'll check out the code for that. Okay, I'll use the shortcode method again, but kindly please do not use it in this way. Now here, I'll try to create instance of class B, instance for class B. I mean, I'm trying to create object of class B. I cannot take it as empty parameter here. I mean, I cannot have a constructor without empty parameters. It reports an error. Since we have defined a constructor saying that it holds three parameters, even when you're creating an object of class B, this constructor call should contain 3 parameters. So here I'll pass value called as 1, 2, 3. So automatically when we write a statement in this way, what happens? The control transfers to constructor of class B. In the constructor of class B, value 1 will be copied into X, value 2 into Y, simultaneously value 3 into Z. In the body of constructor, again we having a keyword, we are having a constructor called super. So automatically it refers to the superclass constructor, which is superclass of class B. Class A is the superclass of class B. Automatically a control transfers here. This piece of code will be executed. 1 will be assigned into I, 2 will be assigned into J. Come back again, K will be given a value called as 3. Again come back to your main module. Now here I'll call a method called as display. B dot, through its reference, B dot display. When I write a statement in this way, usually we may assume that we'll get the answer as I equals to 1, J to K3, but that is not done. When I'm calling display, it automatically calls, I'm calling display through the reference of object B. Now among the reference of object B, we're having two methods. A method display which belongs to the superclass, a method display which belongs to the subclass. So when you're calling display, this subclass method will be invoked, but not your superclass. Since your superclass method is having same name and type signature as the subclass, your superclass method is hidden by your subclass. So automatically this subclass method gets invoked, we'll get the answer as only k equals to 3. Okay, in case I want to get display here, I cannot write, as we have discussed among super, I cannot write something of this kind. B dot super dot display. I cannot write in this way. What is working of super? A super always invokes your super class. Now, is class AB a child of any superclass? No, it is not a child. So it reports an error. Or even I cannot take it as super dot display. Again, it reports an error because AB is no way connected. AB is a unique class which is not connected to any other classes. So AB does not hold an parent class. So it reports an error. One better way of invoking parent class display is, or the method which is hidden by the parent class is calling from the subclass itself. Here, before displaying value of k, I'll invoke a method which belongs to your superclass, class A. So I'll be calling it as super dot display. When I write a statement called as super dot display, now which is parent of parent of class B? Parent of class B is class A. So it automatically invokes the superclass display. So this method gets invoked. We'll get the value of I as 1, J as 2, then followed by K as 3. I hope you understood this one, right? Overriding is nothing but a method, a subclass method which is having same name and same type signature of your superclass, then that method hides your superclass method. That process we call it as method overriding. In case to invoke your hidden method, you're supposed to do it using keyword called as super, or in case you're supposed to invoke your overridden method, you're supposed to do it with the help of keyword super. Now super should be called only within the scope of subclass, but out of subclass super will not be invoked. Super is illegal there. Okay, right? I hope you understood about overriding, right? Overloading is similar. Overloading is nothing but in the last few seconds before we discussed about overriding. Overriding is that same name and same type signature. If it is overloading, overloading is nothing but same name and with different type signature. Same name, different type signature, that we call it as overloading. You can refer here. I'll take something now. There is no overriding here. Overloading is taking place. A parent class is having a method called as sample. Even child class is having a method called as sample, but this receives a parameter. Here we are not having parameter. Your type signature is different. Since type signature is different, This process we call it as overloading. Sample can be called without super. I mean, sample method available in parent can be called without super. Even child can be invoked directly. It does not report any error. We'll just modify the same code here. Uh, we'll use a parameter. This super is not required since we are not implementing overriding. Here. Now class A is having a method called as display with no written value and no parameters. Your subclass B is having a method called a display with no written value but with a parameter of type string. So what happens here? It is said the display method is overloaded. Now to invoke your display method which belongs to your superclass, you are supposed to call it without parameters. In case to invoke your display method which belongs to your subclass B, it should be done with the parameter, which should be invoked with the parameter of type string. Now, this statement b.display automatically invokes your superclass display method where we get the value of I as 1, j as 2. In case I need to invoke subclass display, it should contain a parameter of type string. So here I'll pass a message, something such as k equals to. I'm passing the string. So automatically what happens, I'm passing a piece of string. So this piece of string will be collected into a string reference called as yes. That's get displayed here. I'll get it as k equals to 3. I hope you understood, right? Overriding means same name, same type signature. Overloading instance, same name, but with different type signature, we call it as overloading.